get into the churches and mobilize conservative Christians to get out and vote, to register and to vote. He has a wonderful ministry, and he is here with us today. And I'd like to introduce to you and welcome him to the stage. Thank you, Dr. Bostic.
Back in 1990, I went to First Baptist Church Pearland, pursuing a ministry like most pastors. Had great success. We baptized 500 people in the first 18 months of the ministry in that church. Well, we were raising money to build new buildings and just having a great time. When my daughter came home and informed us that she was taking part in a high school assembly the next day, well, as most pastor daddies would do, but especially a pastor, I began looking into the nature of the assembly and didn't feel good about what I learned. And so I went down to that high school assembly, plopped down to the back of the auditorium as a concerned parent. You know, when I was in the 8th grade, we had sex education. They took all the boys in the boys' gym, all the girls in the girls' gym, blacked out the windows, showed us not videos, but 16-millimeter projections of images of people with all kinds of venereal diseases. And when the lights came back on, it took us about 3 years to get over it. We were so terrified. And so I thought I knew about sex education. Well, the short of a long story, I've written about this and spoken about it a lot, was I decided, you know, I wasn't very happy with the morality being projected. So I got involved. I first asked to speak to the school board. It became quite a brouhaha. About 600 people showed up for that school board, and that's never a good sign. It made national press because as a result of that, I began encouraging our people to get involved in civil politics. We didn't have a single person in the church of 3,000 members that even participated in any level of politics. But in 2 years' time, we had 4 of our members on the school board out of 7, gave brand new direction to the school board, had 3 of our members elected to city council out of 5, changed the direction of city council, and just a little kind of an in-game testimonial. In this last election, 2 members of that church, or 2 products of that church, I should say, were elected as freshman members of the U.S. Congress that realized as a result of our activism that Christians could make a difference. For the last 10 years, I've been traveling from state to state. In fact, we were in South Carolina the year that Jim DeMint ran for the U.S. Senate, mobilized pastors that year here. We don't do a lot of press. We don't do a lot of discussions about it. We just quietly try to find preachers to get involved in enlisting their people to study candidates and vote their values. When I hear that there's a candidate of the caliber of Curtis Bostic, I want to be involved because I believe the hope for our country is for men and women of principle and conviction to step up and get involved. And so when one does, I believe it is the duty of the church to get behind them. We don't tell preachers how to preach. We don't tell them there are people who to vote for. But my discovery has been that if you get the pastors aware, show them what the candidates believe, they make the right choices. And in this state, the real choice is about trust, about turning over the reins of government power to a man that you can trust. I don't know of anyone that I've read about or learned about in a long time that gave me a better sense of security than what I have learned about Curtis Bostic. And let me just say this. The thing that sealed the deal for me was knowing that Rick Santorum was endorsing this man's candidacy. Because in the last, I've watched Rick Santorum from a distance throughout his career in the U.S. Senate. This is the kind of man we need running our country. I personally, in his candidacy for president, and I told him earlier today, I said, I have a bone to pick with you. Why aren't you president? I wish he were, but nevertheless, he's devoted his life to finding men of like-hearted mind. So without further ado, let me give the esteemed Senator Rick Santorum come and speak on behalf of us.
Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you for the great work that you do, and thank you for being here today to lend your voice to my support for Curtis Bostic. We did an event a little earlier down in Charleston, and I had an opportunity now to spend some time. This is really the first time I talked to him on the phone, but I never really spent any time with him and his family. And he is as advertised. He's a real deal. He's a good and decent man. Someone who is sharp. Someone who's sharp not just in his mind, but he's sharp in understanding the problems that confront this country, and he has a clear vision as to how to confront those problems. He is as he said at the last event, he's an average guy who's out there doing his job as a citizen. Involved in city council, county council, involved in his business, involved in his church, involved in his community. He's doing what we as citizens are supposed to do. We're supposed to be active in every aspect of our lives and making sure that that our community's better, that our country's better, so we can hand off something better to the next generation. That's what citizens do. And he is a good, average citizen who went above and beyond that and served our country honorably and with honor and decoration in the United States Marine Corps. So this is, I would say, if you're looking for another Tim Scott, that you've got another Tim Scott right here. Someone who is a man who was active in his community pretty much the same way that Tim was, and comes with the same set of values and principles, the ruggedness, and Tim is nice guys you want to meet. Curtis is nice guy you want to meet. But Tim is sharp and he's steel. He understands the problems that confront this country, and he's willing to go out there and take the tough stands and confront the problems and try to make a difference. He did it in Congress, and he's doing it now in the United States Senate. So if you're looking for someone here in the Low Country that's going to go to Washington, D.C., and do what Tim Scott was able to do, to represent your values, someone you can be proud of, someone that you can trust, who's going to go out there and support you and what your values are, and focus on what your problems are, then I would say that we've got this man who understands that our country is in trouble on all fronts. We face serious threats on the national security front. You're seeing that play out in the Middle East. This man, unlike anybody in the race on either side of the aisle, has experience as a Marine, as someone who understands the problems of national security. He understands the importance of the defense of our country is for this district, and will be a great voice for this district, as well as for the country on national security issues. Someone who has record in local government will show that he is StopSpending.com. I mean, this is a man who is a committed fiscal conservative, understands as a businessman what it takes to grow this economy. And the third leg of that Reagan stool, which is more cultural issues. This is a man who is not afraid to go out and articulate those issues, not afraid to stand for those and make them a part of his campaign. I always say it on the moral issues, if you're a conservative candidate, if you're not on the offense, you're on the defense. And I don't care what issue it is, on national security and economics, whatever. If you're playing defense, you're not winning. And so we need to have candidates who are not afraid to go on offense. And Curtis has in this campaign. Contrast with a lot of the other candidates in the primary. Certainly the person who's running against is right. And so I just think we have a candidate that conservatives can rally around, that low country people can rally around, because he's a good, decent man from their community who understands what it takes to make a difference in Washington, D.C. We need just like Tim Scott was, a breath of fresh air for Washington. I don't think there's any doubt, if you look at this race, who the breath of fresh air is. And so I ask
So I'm driving down the road in my pickup truck. It's my little Chevy. Driving down the road in my pickup truck and minding my own business. I'm just going to work, right? My world is just perfectly fine. Going to work. My phone rings. Hit the button on my dash, and I answer my telephone, and I say, hello. And this voice I had never heard before comes across my speaker. This guy says, Mr. Bostic? I said, yes. He said, my name is Scott, and I want to date your daughter. Just like that. Here I am, just minding my own business. I didn't ask this joker to come into my life or to mess with my daughter. And he's asking me to date my daughter. So let me tell you what I did. Here's what I did. I gave him a fair warning. Told him I'd get back to him, hung up the phone, and then I immediately began calling friends of mine. And I began checking this guy out. I wanted to know what his grades were like. I wanted to know what his old flames had been like. I want to know what his family was like and his work history. You might have done the same thing if you had a daughter like mine. Because where someone has been is a good projection of where somebody will be, where they will go, what their values are, and what they will do. If you're going to rent a house to somebody, you look and see what they've done. If you're going to hire somebody, you check them out, don't you? Well, let me give you some idea about checking me out. 1987, joined the United States Marine Corps, my first opportunity to really, truly serve my country. What a privilege, what an experience to serve as a United States Marine. I join with those of you in the sound of my voice right now who are veterans in expressing the honor it is to represent this great nation. What a privilege. I'm glad to be one of you if you are a veteran. I served on Charleston County Council with Tim Scott. He and I had overlapping years for 6 of them. For 8 of the years that I served, for the 8 years that I served you, Charleston County had 0 tax increases. For the 8 years that I served, Charleston County had a balanced budget every year. And I worked hard to bring Verizon and Boeing to Charleston. I was privileged to do that alongside my good friend Tim Scott and others who put effort to that. I'm thankful for their service as well. If you want to know where I've been married for 25 years. I've got 5 kids that look a lot more like their mama, praise God, than me. We live out in Ravenel. I got a John Deere tractor. That's me. That's where I've been. I spent my life serving, and I'll continue to spend my life serving. Congress or no, by God's grace, I'll continue a life of service. That's what I think life is for. Life is for service, I believe. So if you want to know where I've been, if you want to check me out, that's where I've been. If you want to know where I'm going, that's where I'm going. I believe we need a limited form of government. I am a fierce fiscal conservative. I believe government knows lots of stuff about taking our money and very little about spending. Unfortunately, our unprecedented deficit and our unprecedented debt demonstrates exactly that. I want to stand to be a voice for common sense people in Washington. I can't change the world, but I can sure send a clarion message that common sense is alive and well in the 1st District of South Carolina. I'd like to do that for you if you'd allow me, if you'd be part of this team. Next Tuesday is when we plan to win this thing. What I need you to do is I need you to get on your email and email all your friends and say, hey, this guy thinks like I think, go vote for him. What I need you to do is to tweet people and say, hey, I like this Bostic guy. Become part of this team. Get involved in the process. Join our list of thousands who have shocked the United States in our return. That's right, we're getting calls from all over the place. People have been surprised by this campaign. You did that. You own that because you made those calls and those contacts. In conclusion, let me again thank my new friend, Senator Rick Santorum. What an example for our nation. A man who has served us intelligently and with principle and with conviction. How we need leaders of character. How we need leaders of character. Rick Santorum is such a man, and I'm so privileged to stand on this stage with him. I know he's got another responsibility, so we're going to let him kind of rush off really quick. Would you just welcome him with me one more time? Tell him thank you.
Bless Rick.
Here. Thanks for coming out. So appreciate your coming. You guys are getting me a ride.
At the airport,
We'll see what happens. Take care of it for you. That's okay.
Curtis? Oh, they went outside.